Hello and welcome back again. Today's little video is about something that I think you could describe it as a rocking horse poo, because we've struggled like anything to get these, and what they are is a little brass thread. Now we already do two smaller brass threads, and we keep getting asked for larger ones, and we go speak to the manufacturers about making one from scratch, and to be honest, the price is so prohibitive. Getting moulds made to make these, they would just be so expensive, no one would be able to afford them, I don't think. But we have finally managed to get a solid brass, we call it a Woodturners ring. Now hopefully if I hold that up there you'll see, it looks initially like it's one piece, but it is two. If I undo that you'll see that we have eventually a bottom part, which is that bit there, which has the internal slope there, and an external part with a little bit of detailing on the top, like so. Now we're going to have to do quite a bit of measuring to fit this. The one measurement that is quite handy, and it's the internal of the bottom part here, is 25mm, so that's really handy for a 25mm Forstner bit to go in there. When we get further into the project you'll see obviously I could hollow it out a little bit further, but that's quite handy. The external measurement of the piece itself is 34mm, so we're going to need to measure the top and bottoms and fit those. And on the lathe I've got a little bit of cherry, and I'm just going to show you how I do a very simple and pretty plain version of this to use this little brass threaded piece, and I hope it's helpful. So what I'm going to do as I go along is use my calipers and measure each bit, mainly because I can't remember what all the measurements are, so I'll do it step at a time to help me and hopefully to help you as well. So the first thing we're going to make is the cap, and if I show you this piece here, the cap goes on this side. I'm not sure whether the camera will pick it up, but you might just be able to see that side is the threads. We're not fitting it to that side because that goes on the other part of the thread. We're fitting it to that side, so that's the way up it goes, like so. This is the top, and the measurement across there, I know this because I've just done it, is 30.15, 30.16, something like that. So what we're looking for is a 30mm piece to go on the top, and this is going to be our top part. So let's turn a 30mm diameter piece from the piece of cherry I've got here, and then we'll part it off and check that that fits okay. The first thing I'm going to do is to decide what size top I want for my project, and I'm going to be lead. I'm not sure if the camera can see this. I've got a woodworm hole. In fact, I've got several woodworm holes throughout this piece. I'm just going to ignore them, but for the sake of this one I'm just going to put a little mark on there, and I'm going to try and turn. It's going to be a pretty small top on this one. I'm just going to try turning at that point, and we're going to go down to 30mm on there when I have marked the line. Okay, and it's now up to you whether you do just a plain 30mm going in. You could inset the whole brass piece if you wanted to, but I'm going to do it pretty much the same 30mm all the way around, and just curve the top slightly, just to really show how the piece of brass fits on the wood better than trying to insert it. So we're going to turn this whole piece down to 30mm. .88, so I reckon that's about right. So this part of the ring, hang on, where are we? That part of the ring should take this part here, and I'm now just going to just do a little bit of shaping on the top here, and then we'll look at parting it off. Unfortunately, I've still got the woodworm hole there. Never mind, I'm going to just take that little nib off on the sander, but hopefully, let's turn that off a minute, hopefully we'll see. There we go. I'm not sure whether you saw me pop that in there, but I say you have to be quite careful of how you measure, but once that's glued in, that will be ready to fix to the other half. So as I said, what I'm going to do is just take that little nib off on the belt sander, and I could even glue that in now if I wanted to, but I'm going to use a two-part epoxy, so I'm going to glue both parts together. But that is the top part there. Next, I'm just going to level up this part here, and as I said before, the bottom part here is 25mm, and it's going to be exactly the right size. If I drew, sorry, you can't quite see that, can you? Let me pull that up. I've got a 25mm Forstner bit in here, and it's exactly the right size for the piece of brass. So to give me a clue as to what size to turn this end to, I'm going to start off by drilling my 25mm hole. Right, so I've got this the right size. I've sanded out the inside a bit. I'm going to have to drill a bit further because it's not very deep, that, and I can just check the fit on there. Now, it's quite a nice tight fit. There's a little bit, I don't think the camera will quite pick it up, but the bit of wood that's sticking out here is fractionally longer than is on the thread. I can just sand that off and just sand that down till I get a nice, good, accurate fit on there. And now all I need to do is to decide what shape I'm going to do this part. So when finishing, it's really quite important, I haven't got rid of the woodworm, that you don't put any wax on this bit, because this is where the brass bit's going to glue. But I'm just going to pop some sanding sealer on the outside and a little bit of wax, making sure I don't get it on this bit here. The gluing, I've got two-part epoxy that I've mixed here, and you'll have to forget, I'll zoom out a bit so you can try and look at what I'm doing. I've got to confess, when I'm gluing these, I have to concentrate on what I'm doing rather than the camera, so I may or may not capture this, but you need only a really small amount of glue to use. Helps if you've tied it up first, unlike me. The first bit I'm going to do is the piece on the lathe. Now, if I show you the ring again, what it's important to do is to get the glue, so I'm covered in bits of dust here, is to get the glue on that surface, not that surface, so the flat bit here, so any glue that comes out can come down the side slightly but not come on the outside of your project, and hopefully just go on the inside of your project. That is the theory. Gluing is probably the most difficult bit to do, and I'm going to put the glue on the inside like so, because I want it on that surface, and you don't need very much. Tiny little bit more. Half the battle with this is actually mixing a small enough bit of glue So I don't know whether the camera will quite pick up how much glue I've got on there. Not a lot. I am going to just pop that on there, and you will see that the glue, let's try and zoom in on that to try and, the glue has come out on the inside, and you want it on the inside. If it's going to squeeze out, you want it to squeeze out on the inside, not on the outside, because you've just done all your polishing on here. So let's just get a tiny bit of cloth and we'll just wipe any excess off around the inside. Hopefully that's okay, and in a couple of minutes that will be dry. And now we're going to do exactly the same for this ring and our little cap. So just to make sure you've got it the right way, don't put it thread side, it's got to be the other side, like so. That's it, really doesn't need very much, and you want to make sure that you don't get it on the threads, otherwise you will have a box that you can't open. Right, and now we're now just going to pop that. I told you I'd miss it. There we go. I'm going to pop that in there like so. And to be honest, with the lid, I'm actually not going to wipe that out, because the last thing I want to do at the moment is to wipe that glue around the threads. So I'm just going to leave that to set. It's a 5-minute epoxy, so hopefully in 5 minutes it'll be done. And once it's dry, there we have, let me zoom out a bit, oh, wrong way, there we go. So our little pot and our lid, and they screw together like so. There we go. It's a rather odd shaped lid, I have to say. I think if I made it again, I wouldn't make it that shape, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how the threads work and fit together. They're really pretty straightforward, and it's quite nice to have a little screw top jar with a little bit of detailing around the top there. So there I've shown you how to make a bit of an odd shaped thing, and I must admit I've never done, that's how to fit it, and I thought to myself, having done it, I could do much better than that if I didn't have the camera on me and I was busy wittering onto you. So I'll turn the camera off, and I made one that actually looks quite nice, hopefully, so it gives you a better idea of what can be done when you actually concentrate on your turning instead of talking to a camera. So there we go, there is the base bit with the ring there. I haven't cleaned out the inside fully, and the glue still sitting on the bottom. For speed I actually use CA glue on the bottom of that, that's why it looks a little bit of a mess, but hopefully that'll give you a better idea of what can actually be done with the little brass rings. There we are. I hope that's helpful. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, take care, happy turning. We'll see you soon. Bye bye for now.